Jeff Whitehead is the Executive Director of the Eastern Kentucky Concentrated Employment Program, or EKCEP. Joe Grossman is President and CEO of Appalachian Regional Healthcare and Chairman of the Perry County Economic Development Board. They are both participating in the first ever Eastern Kentucky Economic Development Summit. We'll talk about that, how they're working to improve the region's workforce, and some other topics tonight on Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition.
Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition, is sponsored by the City of Hazard. Come home to the mountains.
Joining us tonight, Joe Grossman on the end and
Steve.
Jeff Whitehead
Steve.
with the EKCEP. Glad to have you both tonight. We're going to talk a lot about economic development. Joe, I do have to ask you first about something that's been in the news a lot recently, the cyber attack at ARH that affected the computer system. Not a lot has been released about that. What can you tell me about what's going on right now?
I can tell you that we've had a cyber attack. We're working with the federal authorities to get our way through it, and hopefully we'll have good news soon.
Can you tell me the day it happened, more about exactly how it happened?
I really can't at this time.
What, you know, there's a lot of rumor. Was it a ransomware attack?
Again, Steve, I can't really get into that.
Okay. And are the computer systems back up yet, or is that still being worked on?
Hopefully we'll have good news soon.
Okay. How are you working to prevent this from happening again?
I'm not going to get into the details, although we do have consultants working with us on it.
Okay. Has this affected your workforce in any way?
Again, Steve, I'm not going to address that.
Okay. Okay. We'll move on. On the day we are taping this, the first Economic Development Summit is taking place here in Hazard. Why did you guys decide this is necessary, and what do you hope to accomplish at the end of the day?
Well, one of the things from a workforce perspective, we want to make sure that the employer community understands that our biggest goal here is to partner with them. In terms of the development of their workforce, and they play an integral part in developing the workforce for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that, as well as creating that kind of ecosystem and environment that is going to spur economic development and small business growth.
Steve, if I could,
yeah.
The Perry County Economic Development Board has been meeting for about 18 months now, and we've been talking about issues related to our economy and actions that we can take to try to help diversify our economy. And one of our members brought up the challenges that people have trying to start a business on their own, and the challenges to find the resources to help them navigate all the avenues that have to be passed down to get a business up and running. With that, we reached out to some folks and came up with the conclusion that maybe if we pulled those resources together and had a summit like this to where anyone who might be thinking of starting a business would be able to make those contacts to start to identify those people who could help them get their business up and running. And I guess it kind of started at the first SOAR Summit. And I don't remember her name, but the young lady who had the tea room here in Hazard spoke at that summit, and a number of us were there. And she spoke about some of the challenges in getting her business off the ground, and just, you know, some of the basic things that maybe some of us who went through business school were exposed to, but maybe others who are very bright and very able to run a business but just haven't had those. So it came out of, that was really the genesis of it, and that's why we thought, you know, maybe we could put this on, bring in the various agencies who could help these people out and spark that interest, if you will.
Now, you're, as I mentioned earlier, the chairman of the Perry County Economic Development Board, and you've just hired a director. Tell me about that.
Actually, we started out, we raised funds. We've raised a little over $100,000 a year for the next 5 years. And with that, we thought it was important to have boots on the ground, if you will. Somebody who will wake up in the morning thinking about how do I improve the economy in Perry County, and they go to bed at night thinking, how do I improve the economy of Perry County? So we began a search. We worked with the folks at One East Kentucky, Chuck Sexton, and we worked with economic developers from Kentucky Power, and looked across really the state and found people who were experienced in economic development activities, interviewed some of them, and we hired Tanita Goodwin, who will be joining us actually on Monday, the 19th, and that will be her first official day working here in Perry County. She comes out of Richmond. She has a number of years working in the Richmond economic development as well as some other economic development activities up there. So we're very excited about it. I think she will bring energy to it. She will help to move not only our organization forward, but more importantly, our economy forward.
What are the main goals of this Economic Development Board? You said it's been started about 18 months ago?
About 18 months ago. Two things. One is to work with the One East Kentucky organization, which is another larger 9-county economic development region, to help to recruit businesses, manufacturers, employers into our county. But the other one is to make sure that we're ready for such a recruitment. And we have to make sure that we know what assets we have, we're well marketed to the rest of the business world so that we're attractive to them and we can respond to them in a timely manner, which, as I understand it, is one of the important things in economic development activity is quick responses.
What have you found about is Perry County ready?
Well, I think we have a lot of assets here. We have a lot of assets. We have a great workforce here. They're pretty well trained. We do have the bricks and mortar assets out at the industrial park, you know, the old Woodmark building, a great asset that is being marketed by One East Kentucky. So I think we have some things that, as I have come to be more exposed to economic development, we have opportunities to improve. I do believe we have a number of people who are working on those opportunities, everyone from the mayor to the county judge to the Kentucky River Ad District, all working together, the industrial authority, to get ourselves as prepared as possible for the recruitment of other businesses, employers.
Joe, there's some water over there if you need it behind the couch, just letting you know.
Okay.
Jeff, one program you guys, I understand, are partnering on is a nurse externship project. Tell me how that works.
In our work with the healthcare sector, one of the things that we continually hear is that because of pressures with accreditation, students, nursing students in particular, are getting less and less time in the clinical setting. So when upon graduation they go to the hospital and they start working, and what they're finding is that they don't have a great idea of where they're the best fit. So what we're doing in partnership with Joe and ARH and his team and the community college is working to provide this externship. While you're in school in the last semester, you have the opportunity to work at the hospital, sample different kinds of specialties and departments. So the hope is, upon graduation, you have a better idea where you fit, and you're more likely to be happy and stick with ARH.
Is the nursing shortage getting worse, Joe?
I think I would say it's bad. I don't know that it's getting worse. We've kind of stabilized today where we are, but I think the nursing shortage is a severe crisis for all of us throughout the state, not just the region here in Kentucky.
Yeah. So this really is a national problem. I just heard something yesterday about a doctor shortage. Is that as bad as the nursing shortage, or are we seeing that here as well?
I would say that's not as bad, and there are certain specialties that are like hen's teeth, you can't find them. Some of the others, they're not as challenging to find. So while there's a doctor shortage, I think right now the most crucial is the nursing shortage.
What is the biggest challenge facing ARH right now? Obviously you've had the cyber attack, but other than that?
Well, I would say our biggest challenge today is the recruitment and retention of a large number of very qualified nurses.
There was a report earlier this year that at least 68 rural hospitals in the U.S. have closed since 2010. Are there any ARH hospitals that are in danger of closing?
I would say at this time we have no plans to close any of our hospitals.
Obviously there are financial challenges right now. Do you blame Obamacare for that?
No, not for us today. I mean, to this point in time, ARH have been very blessed. And while there's financial challenges, I worry more about the future than I do the immediate than today. Mm-hmm. As you know, our state is about to get its bill on the Obamacare piece of it, and the governor and his staff are wrestling with how they're going to pay their portion of it, and that's what concerns me down the road.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a lot of politics in this. What is your position on Obamacare? Do you think some parts of it should be repealed, or what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I thought we were going to talk about economic development. I think there are pieces that are beneficial and there are pieces that need to be fixed.
Now back to economic development. Okay. EKSEP was recently awarded nearly $3 million to help fund the development of what's being called a new technology ecosystem in Eastern Kentucky. So what does that mean, and how exactly is that money going to be used?
Well, we're working hard to prepare the workforce, expand the workforce, and to being able to take advantage of the digital economy. Mm-hmm. We believe that certainly one of the greatest potentials for our region is technology. Our mountains are flat via technology, and we can compete in the world marketplace via technology. So that grant from the Appalachian Region Commission is going to help us launch an immersive training program where we're partnering with business, and partnering particularly in this case in Paintsville with Interapt, which is a software development company in Louisville, providing an immersive 33-week training program that's bringing some of the state-of-the-art curriculum from 1150 Academy in Indianapolis. We've recruited our first 50 students who are going to be involved in this workplace-based training internship. So they're going to come out the other end of that training with multiple certifications and the ability to write code and work for companies like Interapt, BitSource, and other development companies.
Heard a lot about BitSource
in
the last few months. Is that a big part of our future, coding?
I think it's, I've heard it said this way in terms of economic development, that and within the SOAR region, that there isn't a silver bullet that's going to cure all, but there are a lot of silver BBs, if you will. And I think that technology and BitSource, that is a handful of BBs that we can deploy to help solve some of our issues. I think it's absolutely essential that we develop a tech-savvy workforce. We have the capacity. The students that have started that first class, September 6th in Paintsville, I was there. Bright faces, energetic. The folks at Interapt are thrilled with who they've collected from Eastern Kentucky as interns. Their hopes are high. They believe that this is going to work, and we know that from BitSource's experience that it can work. They've been the pioneer in this. Mm-hmm. You know, there are now 8 coal miners that are making their living writing code when they were mining coal just a short time ago.
Any thoughts on that, Joe?
Well, I hope that coding is part of our future. Obviously, it won't be all of it, but I see the world is only going to continue to expand in the technology world, and obviously all machines run off of code. And as I meet people throughout the region, I see very bright people who are very capable of being able to code. So I hope it's a big part of our future going forward.
The results of the East Kentucky Works survey, I know you were there. Were you there as
Yes,
well?
I
Okay.
was.
They were just unveiled. What did you think about that study, and were there any surprises for either one of you?
I don't think there were a whole lot of surprises. What I thought about it, I thought it was a wonderful study. It's a great opportunity for us to get quantitative data to support a lot of what we already know. So one of the things that was confirmed for me was that, one, that people are very much interested in retraining when there's a job at the end. They don't want to do it over a long period of time because they get back to the work of life, and they need to get back to work and as quickly as time as possible. So that was confirmed. The idea of apprenticeships and internships, work-based kinds of learning was important to the people that were surveyed, and we're finding that to be the most successful pathway into reemployment.
Joe, what did you think about the results?
You know, as the chairman of the Perry County Economic Development Board, and also part of the Harlan, One Harlan County, which is of a similar organization, I'd have to say that was one of the most economically optimistic meetings I've been to in quite a while in the region. Seeing the data on the workforce that we have available and the skill sets of that workforce, and the fact that we now have, Chuck Sexton with One East Kentucky out able to market that workforce to the world, I'm very optimistic that we're going to be able to see an improvement in our economy over the next several months. So,
Steve, one of the things that study mentioned was the transferability of the skills that many of our miners have. And we've sent a number of coal miners to Indianapolis to a CNC training school, a 12, 16-week program. And they have absolutely flourished in that environment. We've sent 7 have completed that training. We're doing it almost experimentally to see how we're doing, because we've recognized that there's a huge need for CNC operators around the country. And we believe that we have a workforce that can attract industry for that kind of worker. So we've sent some people to training. They've flourished there. The first 4 we sent went there 2 weeks late. Within a week they were caught up. And after the second week, they were ahead of the class. 7 have completed, 7 are working. They're working for Lockheed Martin in Mount Sterling, making great wages, very comparable wages to what they were making in the mines. So that is a proving ground, we believe, for what's possible in terms of the transferability of our workforce to that kind of advanced manufacturing.
Some might say, oh, this study is just more talk. You think it's worth it, it sounds like, the money spent on the survey.
Yeah, absolutely. This was, people say that. But one of the things that we know, that this is a long-term venture. We're not going to create a new economy overnight. We knew that going in. And the other thing that we know is that we got to work collaboratively in ways that we have never worked before. Economic development, education, and workforce has to be this threaded rope where we work together. And that study was an example of that, because all of those groups kicked in to make that study happen. It is all of our study, and we can work now in sync using data, not just anecdotal kind of ideas, but we can work together strategically. I think it's very important.
So you take this data and do what with it now? What's next?
well, what's going on has already started. Is, again, I mentioned Chuck Sexton a few times with One East Kentucky.
Yeah.
And Chuck has taken this data to the Windsor province of Canada, to Michigan, where a lot of auto manufacturers are based today, and they're looking for expansion opportunities. He's taken this kind of data to those employers and shown them, here's what we have available. And you mix that with some, if you will, a slight geography lesson, and show that within 200 miles of our region, there are 7 major auto assembly plants. So that becomes attractive to them. Now we show them we have the workforce, and we have the geography that keeps our costs down. Now they're attractive to us. We are on their map, which is something we weren't a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
You recently had the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland in town. Why was she here?
She came to, or a representative of hers, came to our first Tech Hire event 2 years ago.
Okay.
And we've kind of kept in touch, and they've been watching how we have been working in the region to develop the workforce, written a few articles, and early on she just came to see some of the positive things we're doing and to listen and hear how we're adjusting in this new economy. She paid, while she was there, she visited the lineman school. She's interested, the Federal Reserve Bank is interested in how workforce development is operating with sectors, identifying the key sectors in an economy. What are the sectors that are going to drive the economy, and then kind of rifle your approach to training people for that sector. That's business driven. So we were showing her the lineman school that Hazard Community Technical College is operating. We're in partnership there, and that's a great example of a employer-driven training program. And the college has done a wonderful job at being fluid with their curriculum, making changes based on what employers are telling them, and we've had phenomenal results. So she was here to see that and just hear about Tech Hire, hear about some of the things that we're doing in terms of economic development in the region. And I think she left feeling pretty hopeful about some of the things we've got going on. Got a long road to hoe, but that's why she's here.
All you have to do is get on social media to hear the pessimism of folks here in Eastern Kentucky. It's dying. We're going to be ghost towns. Why do you have reason to be optimistic?
Want to take that?
Well, I'll tell you what I've told people. I told you earlier, Steve, I grew up in Indiana. We head up towards South Bend every now and then. In 2008, 2009, our economy here was still pretty hot. I went through Kokomo, Indiana, and it was a ghost town. And it was dying, and the attitude was very similar, and they're back. And all we have to do, I believe, is stay the course, work together. Jeff mentioned the 3 intertwined strands of the rope. If we continue to work that way, I'm very optimistic. Part of the reason I'm optimistic is as I interact with the people in the mountains in Perry County, I see a can-do attitude. I see, while there is the pessimism on the side, I see people who are able to do it and want to do it. And I think when you have all those pieces put together, it's going to take time. But as long as we keep the effort up, the time will pass and we'll be where we want to be.
One of your maybe the biggest success story is the home program. It's been going on now, I guess, 2 or 3 years at least. Tell me, has that exceeded your expectations, and how successful has it been?
It has. We have connected with nearly 3,500 laid off coal miners, coal industry workers. There are in the neighborhood of 1,600 of those that have gone back to work, and more people in training as we speak. They're some of the reason our experience with home is one of the reasons I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
Is because I've been in a room full of these people, these mining industry workers, and I look in their faces, I see the resiliency in their spirit, their willingness to work. That brings optimism. These are some of the most ambitious people we have in the region. And so our experience with home And the partnerships that have been born out of that, the entrepreneurs and the philanthropic kind of folks within the region that have come to us and said, how do we work, how do we help? Those are all the reasons why I think we're optimistic about the future. Not in a Pollyanna kind of way. We know this is going to be hard, but I like what Joe said. You know, if at the end of the day, if we keep working like that, we're going to get what we want. We're going to get where we need. And I think that this is the time.
Yeah.
This is the time in Eastern Kentucky's history where we have the opportunity to make the biggest difference, and that our kids and their kids can live in an Eastern Kentucky that has all the wonderful things that we don't want to change, but will have the diversification that's going to allow people. You know, the coal industry worker can get stereotyped, right? Oh, the coal industry worker is this. In that room, in those rooms, I find out that so many of they have as much diversity of any industry that there is. They have artistic talents, they have scientific talents, they have all of the diversity that any other workforce has. And in the future, that diversity is going to be put to work. That's what we're striving for, and that's why we're doing economic development. That's why we're working together, and all the assets that have always been here can be brought together and be made known to the world. We can be the best next investment opportunity for business, Eastern Kentucky, because of what we have in the workforce.
Wanted to mention another project, the Teleworks Hub. You just opened another one in Boonville.
We did.
Talk about how that works, and are there more planned?
There are more plans. We have 5. Since 2015, we have put 402 people working to work for companies that aren't in this region. This goes back to how do we prepare our people to compete in the digital economy. We recognized several years ago that the world of work is changing. Technology has changed where people can work remotely and they can work from home. People do it all the time. And we were thinking, gosh, that's an opportunity that's never existed before. So we started pursuing that, and we've landed a number, mostly lower wage customer service kinds of jobs, but we're trending upward. We think that once we get people working from home, that they can upgrade their skill level and work for higher wages, and we're seeing some of that. So, yeah, we got 5 hubs. They go through a 3-week training program. We're always vetting remote work opportunities to make sure that they're not scams, and people can apply for those jobs. And we're also always on the prowl to find companies that we can work directly with and place people in remote opportunities. Pikeville is our next step.
We are out of time, but Joe, I want to
Yeah.
give you the final word, since I popped some questions on you weren't expecting. Anything I've left out that you wanted to mention tonight real quick?
No, I think it's important, as Jeff said, that we all work together, and I think everybody in the community comes together, and we realize that we need not only each other, but we need to work together to improve our economy. It's going to help all of us if we do so.
All right, Joe.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Jeff,
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Issues and Answers.